I want to be a famous rider. I should like to race.
Presented by Peterson and Smith Equine Hospital.
Truth is, I help horses with people problems.
Now here's the Brit on the bit, Louisa Barton!
Yeah, baby!
Welcome to the Horse Talk Show. We're live now. And guess who's on the phone? Louisa Barton. Hi, Louisa.
Yes, it's wonderful to hear your voice. I just wanted to help you start up the show today, give an update on myself, and I actually just sent a photo of Gigi of me wearing my Kentucky Derby shirt in honor of your special guest, Otto Thorwarth, who is an author, rider, chaplain, actor, a man of many wonderful gifts. And yes, just to give you an update on how I'm feeling. As most of you know, I broke my neck and my back in a very bad car accident a few weeks ago. I'm very thankful to be alive, thanking God every day that I'm still here.
Yep.
And really recovering. Doctor's orders, to stay at home and rest as much as possible.
That means don't trip over the dogs.
With Otto last week as he was passing through, and then suggested he come back to the studio with you tonight. And so I'm very glad that he's going to co-host with you. You're going to really enjoy his stories. I've got Dr Cayot, of course, coming up next. I think Gigi has a plan for that, something we decided on last week as well. So we'll be calling him in a little while. But I'm just glad to be here and be recovering at home with my four-legged family.
Well, how many weeks has it been now?
It's been 3 since the accident happened. And my doctor follow-up is April the 8th to find out if I can have this dreadful collar off. Hopefully Gigi got the picture by now. But once I have this off, then I get a soft collar afterwards. I have to wear that for a little while. And that's, I think, another 6 weeks. And it's about 3 months to, be back to normal, as much as normal is for me. But I might not have a, full rotation of my neck completely back ever. But I've got a metal plate and some screws holding it all together.
Where's the break at? What level?
C5 and C6. Mm-hmm. And also one of my discs actually broke off completely and was trying to float into my nerves, which of course would have paralyzed me. So the doctors here are amazing, and they whisked me into surgery so fast before that happened. Very, very fortunate to have an excellent doctor, Dr Oliver at Advent Health. I can't say enough about Advent Health and the way that they took care of me and the way that they rushed me straight in to be scanned and sewed my knee back on. And I mean, they were just amazing. And really, really grateful for an excellent surgeon who told me before I went in that he had done it about 4,000 times. So that was very comforting.
Oh, wow.
Just to know that, that he knew what he was doing and, and I was in good hands. So that was definitely very, very comforting. Overall, just really blessed to have really felt like I had the hands of God on me, as I was going through this process, and so many wonderful people, visitors, flowers, phone calls, food offers, just really, really feel fortunate to be surrounded by so many people, and just be blessed to be here. And unfortunately, mentioning in this news segment that Pat Pirelli's parents last week were in a dreadful car accident here in Ocala on Pat's 67th, or at least they were visiting for Pat's 67th birthday, and sadly they died in the car accident. And I just want to say on the show, our condolences and prayers to the Pirelli family and everybody connected there, to these wonderful people that were visiting. So very sad news to hear that last week, and having been in a car accident myself that was such a close call.
Yes.
Reminds you of your mortality.
Yes.
You never know when your last day is, so live every day like it's your last.
Yeah, things can change in a nanosecond.
Yes.
Forever.
Yes, it did for me. I didn't even know it was coming. You know, usually when you get hit by somebody, you have some kind of advance warning that it's going to happen, and you can defensively drive and try to at least avoid the worst of it. Unfortunately, I had no idea. It just came plowing in the side of me, so out of nowhere. So, you know, just know you can have no warning. So, you know, first of all, drive as defensively as you can, pray as much as you can, and know that nobody knows. You know, and it's sad times when we don't realize that. But that's been a big realization for me, is you just never know when it's coming.
I had that accident when the horse fell and I got drug across the arena, so I don't have any memory of it, but that certainly changed a lot of things.
Yes, it does indeed. And, you know, I'm just glad I'm here, and I'm glad everyone's still listening to the show. We've got great guests and some wonderful interviews coming up for you, and I can't think of a better guy than Otto, you know, to have on, and of course be on Equus TV as well this evening, so everyone can enjoy it on Facebook, and then, you know, on the Sky on Saturday morning, 97.3, on a variety of podcasts, and of course on Equus Television as well. So I think it's great that...
Louisa, these interviews, they all go up into YouTube, is that correct?
Yes, and Gigi loads most of them onto the YouTube as well, so that's nice that you can always go and look at them on there, and on Facebook you can always scroll back as well. But having a superstar like Otto come up and see us during his trip, his traveling trip with Chad, is a real honor. Thanks, Otto, for being with us.
My pleasure.
We sure love having you. Yes. We love having you even on the phone, but it's much better in person.
Yeah, always. We already had a laugh already when I couldn't remember his name. I just drew a blank, and he handed me his book so I could read it.
Well, that's good.
You know, I only said his name 100 times, and then I go say his name, and I couldn't remember. It's just a lot of stuff. It's because the news came to me 2 minutes before we were supposed to air. So, Louisa, can you help me out with the news?
Sure. As always, there's a lot going on in the horse capital, in and around, definitely. You know, we've always got a lot going on at the Florida Horse Park. And, of course, this coming weekend is kind of the end of the hit season again. That went by so fast.
Didn't it, though?
That's incredible that the 1 million's coming right up, and Layla and Gigi, I believe, are going to be there.
And that's March 28th.
Yeah, March 28th, right? So that's exciting. It's always, the 1 million's always exciting. I'm sad I can't be there, of course, missing that this year, but I know we'll be well represented, and we'll get some good footage there at the end of the hit season again. Are rolled around so fast.
Yeah, it does go fast. I can't believe it. The Florida Horse Park, it's the Ocala Spring Premiere. That's March 31st to April 4th. And what does that entail?
That is you're talking about the Florida Horse Park?
Yeah, Florida Horse Park.
Yeah.
Has
coming up at the end of the
Spring.
month, right?
Yeah, March 31st to April 4th is the Ocala Spring Premiere.
That's right. That's the spring premiere, and then I mentioned also the 2021 FEI World Cup finals were cancelled due to the EHV1 outbreak, which of course we talked about with Dr. Cayot last week. So that's obviously out of taking great care and concern for the horses, because that's such a big deal.
Right.
You know, what spreads, and so very mindful of that still at the moment. And then Life is Good, who was probably going to enter the Triple Crown Trail as the favourite, unfortunately is got a chip in his ankle. It's a small chip in the left hind, and he's going to go back to Kentucky and have surgery and rest up at Spendthrift and get him well. Hopefully we'll see him race again later in the year. I'm not sure what the recovery time is on that, but I know he was kind of the one everyone was watching for the Derby Trail. So I'm praying him to have a fast recovery, and Spendthrift is a wonderful place to rest up for sure.
Well, we're at the end of it, Louisa. I'm sure glad you got to be on the phone. Miss
Yes.
you a lot. So
Yes, thank
Yeah.
you.
yeah.
Thank you for doing so well, holding down the fort. Enjoy the show with Otto. He's got lots of great stories to tell you, and make sure you get his book, everybody. Everybody needs his book.
Yeah, yeah. Everybody needs the book. Okay,
Take
well then
care.
we'll take
All right.
care. We'll talk to you soon. All right, bye-bye.
All right.
Hi, this is Hall of Fame jockey Mike Smith. You're listening to the Horse Talk Show.
Thank you to our presenting sponsor, Peterson and Smith, Equine Hospital and Complete Care, and Larson Hay, our broadcast and television sponsor, plus supporting sponsors, DAC Vitamins and Minerals, Seminole Feed Stores, All In Removal, TT Distributors, and the Hilton Garden Inn in downtown Louisville.
This show is sponsored in part by Hilton Garden Inn. Downtown Louisville, only 5 miles from Churchill Downs. Enjoy the 2 most exciting minutes in sports, plus a hearty breakfast and a mimosa, and let Hilton Garden Inn do the rest.
Are you ready to get loco? At Loco Graphics, every dollar matters to provide your ideas brought to life. Loco Graphics strives to get your message across and impact your customers, offering logo design, vehicle wraps, business cards, banners and more. Make your business shine and showcase who you are with nothing but the highest quality materials. The difference is in the details. Impact your potential customers with Loco Graphics. Like them on Facebook now and find them on the web at locographics.com.
Hi, this is Hall of Fame jockey Mike Smith. You're listening to the Horse Talk Show.
Welcome back to the Horse Talk Show. My co-host, Otto Thorwarth, is here sitting with me, but we have Adam Cayot on the phone from Peterson and Smith. And the topic tonight is transferring medicines or medication from your hands to the horse. Is that possible, Dr. Cayot?
Well, one of my favorite sayings is, it's possible, but is it probable?
Yeah.
It is possible, however, it's not very probable. And the reason, unless you're just super messy, first of all, the medication that you have on your hands could possibly get transferred, some medications. However, it doesn't happen very often. Obviously in drug test cases, you have to be very diligent, or as diligent as you possibly can be. And that's why, if you're at a particular event, at a race or a horse show or wherever you have official drug testers, I mean, stuff gets, samples get wrapped up, and that is to help prevent this sort of thing. Now, can horses get stuff off your hands? Of course they can. If you have any type of thing on your hands, you put your hand in their mouth, or it's next to your, you feed them out of your hand, and you have some sort of medication there, they can certainly consume that and have some of that in their system.
Well, somebody had mentioned about lidocaine patches. You touch a lidocaine patch, and then you touch the horse, and they would test for lidocaine.
Well, it's possible that could happen.
Possible, but not probable.
But it's all connected to the amount, right? The amount you have to have a lot on your hand for that
to transfer through the skin.
Not like you just
can't be on the hair.
Get a little on your hands, you touch them, and they're going to test positive. No, it has to be, a certain amount for a certain amount of time that it allows that to be absorbed or ingested, or however it ends up getting on the horse.
Well, I'm sure like Otto, we've been in the test barn. I'm sure you've been around that.
Oh, yeah.
They don't smoke, they don't do this, they don't do that, because nothing's in the buckets. The buckets are given to you because they don't want the horses to ingest or breathe or touch anything that could result in a bad test. So I do know, as a massage therapist, there's CBD oils and salve that I don't use on athletes because they say it might test, but I'm also massaging the skin, so it would go in.
Right. Well, some medications are absorbable through the skin, and you have to be aware of those things. I don't know how CBD is. I'm assuming it's absorbed through the skin somehow or another, but I'm not real familiar with it. But there certainly are medications that get absorbed through the skin. I mean, there are certain non-steroidals that horses can have that can be absorbed through the skin. So all these things are, you just have to be careful, especially on a horse that might get tested for something. Just be super diligent and be aware of what you're doing.
Exactly. Don't mix buckets if somebody's getting medication that another one shouldn't get.
That's right. Absolutely. You have be organized and have all your ducks in a row, so you know who's getting what when, and if one and if you get it on you, then go wash your hands. Just wash your hands and that sort of thing, and you can minimize those problems, and but it certainly can happen. Like I said, it's possible, but it's not real probable. So
I know on the racetrack we're very careful on how we medicate horses, and we know times and withdrawal times for if it needs something that's it's not a drug type as a performance drug. It could be SMZs. It's got a little snotty nose. Whatever it needs in those things. But I'm not sure that in the horse show world that everybody is as particular as probably the racetrack is, because nowadays I guess the testing can get down to just the tiniest of the metabolites of something that wouldn't even affect the horse, but they could test it down that far where years ago they didn't. So if they suspect something, somebody could test that far and see what you're getting.
That's right. Yeah, the testing is obviously getting more advanced and more sensitive, and that's leading to a better ability to detect certain medications that are there.
Yeah, I don't know if you're aware. Do you know whether somebody had said that you can test the hair for clenbuterol?
I don't know that for sure, but certainly there are. Your hair can absorb certain drugs, and horses' hair can too. So that wouldn't surprise me. I don't know about clenbuterol specifically, but that certainly is a possibility. Yeah, that is a possibility. So it's just a matter of, obviously you have withdrawal times, and those are important, as well as you have to think about the therapeutic levels. So, just because something might be in the system, is it causing an effect? That's the other thing you have to think about. It might be at a level where it's, quote unquote, not therapeutic. So it's, even though they'd had it at a certain time, is it having any effect at this point? And,
but they can still test.
It's probably not.
They can still test for those metabolites and call it a bad test.
That's right. That's right. They can.
Those are the things you got to worry about.
They can. Yeah, absolutely. So, it's a.
Well, that was an interesting. It was some
consideration
when she said about transferring it from human to horse. I was shocked. I wasn't sure what to say about that. I can't even think of the things that would be on my hands that I would touch a horse with. Do you know of anything that you would be?
Maybe a doc can answer this question. Years ago, up in Indiana, at the track where I'm at, they had a trainer who had a son who took Ritalin for his mental stability.
Right, sure.
And the trainer ended up having a horse that test positive for it, and it was just a tiny amount, but their thoughts were that the kid had went in the corner of the stall to use the restroom. It got in the straw or hay, and then the horse ate it, and that was how he contacted it. Is that a possibility, or is that another one kind of it's possible but not a problem?
Possibility.
Yeah.
Because they said and those types of drugs, they're stimulants.
Yeah.
Right? So.
Wow.
It's a drug for humans.
Wouldn't want around, right?
For humans, it kind of calms them down, but
horses it makes them
probably have the
calm.
opposite effect on a horse.
Absolutely.
Well, see, that's an example of what we were talking
Those
about.
types of drugs are interesting.
Yeah. So you would have human type drugs that you could excrete through the kidneys or whatever, and then the horses pick it up. So that's definitely something to watch out for.
Get rid of it just like we would.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I think we're down to the 1 minute mark, so those are the things to really be, if you're horse showing or do anything, just watch, because there is medications now that are today that weren't 20, 30 years ago that could affect the horses because how many people don't go in the stall and
it happens a lot, more than we'd like to think.
That's the best thing. So.
Absolutely.
Well,
absolutely.
Is there anything else that you could say about medications, Dr. Cayot?
Well, I think just medications in general, we got to be really really cognizant of how we use them, and that they're used in a safe manner that benefits the horse and benefits the sport that the horse is competing in, because more and more, bad press about overly medicated athletes, whether it be our horse friends or human athletes, is it's a way to get sports, our what we enjoy and what the horses enjoy in our livelihoods can have a dramatic effect. We always have to keep that in mind.
Keep the rules in mind and ask your veterinarian. So
absolutely.
Well, we appreciate you talking with us today, and I will be talking to you again. So
thanks for having me.
Yes.
Talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Thank you to our presenting sponsor, Peterson & Smith Equine Hospital and Complete Care, and Larson Hay, our broadcast and television sponsor, plus Supporting sponsors, DAC Vitamins and Minerals, Seminole Feed Stores, All In Removal, TT Distributors, and the Hilton Garden Inn in downtown Louisville. Are you ready to get loco? At Loco Graphics, every dollar matters to provide your ideas brought to life. Loco Graphics strives to get your message across and impact your customers, offering logo design, vehicle wraps, business cards, banners, and more. Make your business shine and showcase who you are with nothing but the highest quality materials. The difference is in the details. Impact your potential customers with Loco Graphics. Like them on Facebook now and find them on the web at locographics.com.
Hi, this is Hall of Fame jockey Mike Smith. You're listening to the Horse Talk Show.
Shoeing horses with
horses.
Welcome back to the Horse Talk Show. We're having a good time here. I'm with Otto Thorwarth. He has a book that he's written, but we're going to talk about his life first. We're going to do 3 segments. We're lucky.
Yes.
So welcome to the show, Otto.
Thank you. Thank you. Glad to be here.
You are and were a jockey. Can
Yes.
you tell me about your beginnings?
My beginnings started in Hot Springs, Arkansas, where Oakland Park is located. That's where I grew up. And as a kid, my dream, as most young men, was to be a professional athlete. And my favorite sport was football, so that was what I was geared to. I was going to be a Dallas Cowboy. And, about junior high, at 5 foot tall, 110 pounds, I realized that probably wasn't going to happen. And so I found out about these pint-sized athletes that ride on the back of horses over at the track. And so I decided to go that route. And
Did you ride horses
I
young?
never rode a horse.
So you never
till
rode
I
a
was
horse?
18 years old.
18 years old. So horses weren't even in your...
My dad was a football coach. My mom was a school teacher. And we lived in a neighborhood with concrete streets.
Now, I always, I trained racehorses too, and I loved the size of the jockeys. I never wanted to be over 4 foot. I don't know why that was, but so I always admired everybody short. When I saw them, I thought, how did you get this size? Were your parents that size?
Yeah, my mom's about the same height. My dad was 2 inches taller. My sister's the tallest in the family at 5'3". And I have a brother that's shorter than I am. So.
Wow.
So yeah, it ran in the family.
You're built to do it. So at 18, you started to ride a horse, and what were you riding?
I worked for Frank Brothers as a hot walker to a groom to a pony boy, and then he sent me to a track in Fayetteville, Texas, that was owned by John T.L. Jones, who has Womack International up in Lexington. Yeah. And that was where I learned to ride. I learned by breaking 2-year-olds. And we had a 2-year-old at the farm named Hansel, who won the Preakness and the Belmont the following year. So I got to cut my teeth on some really nice horses.
You already knew what nice horses were.
I knew what a good horse felt like before I ever got to the racetrack.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah. So you just went right to somebody and said, hey, I think I want to be a jockey, and they probably looked at it and you go,
you got the size. I started out with a job. I just started walking hots as a way to make money because I was an early riser.
And how much was that?
I think I made like $250 a week, which was better than all my buddies that were flipping burgers.
That's $250 a week. And for how many hours?
I'd be there about 4 hours.
4 hours, early morning. Like what time in the morning?
Get there at 5 and work till like 9, 10 o'clock.
Now, did you do the races too?
You mean when I was working? Well, I was still in school, so I only got to go to the races on the weekends.
Right.
But I loved it, and and everybody kept telling me the first year, "Oh, you should be a jockey. You should be a jockey." And I hadn't really, like I said, I was wanting to be a football player. And then finally it kind of clicked. It's like,
it wasn't going to happen.
And I found out that jockeys make a very, good living.
A decent living, even with the risk.
They would tell me, they said, a decent jockey could make 150,000 a year, and I thought, well, I've been better than decent at anything I've ever tried, so maybe I'd be a little above that, So it was, it sounded a lot better than college to me.
Yeah.
So I went down there, had a great Cheryl Asmussen. Well, at that time, that wasn't her last name, but Cheryl, the lady who taught me how to ride, ended up marrying Cash Asmussen, who's a champion jockey over in England.
Yeah.
But she was just fantastic,
So
really patient with me.
So she actually put you up on your first horses.
She put me on my first horse. I started out with a pony in the round pen, learned how to post. I didn't even know how to post.
With a regular exercise saddle
with
on.
a regular exercise.
So you're on a
English
pony and a
saddle,
round pen, learning to do that, learning your balance, positioning.
It was funny too because we were at the farm, and when we went out, they're like, everybody knew it was going to be my first time on a horse, and so they all went out. And they're waiting to see me get dumped, and I didn't get dumped, and they're like, after about 5-6 minutes, everybody just started going back to the barn. I got no show today. They just knew they were going to see me get dropped. I'm not going to say I never got dropped. I did hit the ground. I bought some real estate in Texas.
So you had to buy the case of beer for everybody.
Yeah.
Because that still is part of the track, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it is at the track. Now, we were at the farm, so they didn't apply it quite as hard.
They didn't?
Yeah, which was surprising. I think just because they'd never been to the track, they didn't know the rule. But as soon as you got to the track, you find that rule out real fast.
I never paid mine back as many times as I came off in the beginning. So then you started galloping.
Yeah, I went back to the track, worked for Frank Brothers again, as Hansel was in his 3-year-old year, actually. And I worked for Frankie about 1.5 years, and then ended up leaving Frankie to go to New Orleans with Al Stahl.
As a gallop boy?
As a gallop boy.
So now how many did you get on in the morning?
Usually 7 or 8 a morning. That was about the average with Frankie. And then when I went to work for Al Stahl the first time he went out on his own, and he had like 7 head. Now he's won the Breeders' Cup and all these other races.
So what did that pay when you did?
I think at that time I was making about $600 a week. So
$600 a week, was that 6 days, 7 days? What was it?
7 days, yeah.
7 days a week. Working. Did you do much else? Did you wrap legs?
No. Once I started galloping, I pretty much just galloped, and I'd pony in the afternoons, to make a little extra money.
Okay, so now what about the first race you rode?
The first race I rode, Hoss Inman noticed me. I was riding training races at the fairgrounds, trying to, kind of get my, learn how to switch sticks and get a clock in my head and stuff, and I rode a couple training races for Hoss, and he invited me to Oakland Park to come ride first call for him. Actually, I had second call. Pat Day had first call, but Pat very rarely rode his horses, so I ended up really getting first call. But he put me on my first horse, and it was opening day at Oakland Park, and I was on a 30-to-1 shot called Color Me Softly. Never forget it. And, I've got Garrett Gomez, Pat Day, Calvin Burrell, Aaron Grider. We had a really strong jocks room. And it was a 1/16 race. And as we went into the first turn, I could see every one of them. I was dead last, trailing the field.
Every one of them.
And I slowly worked my way through them, as we went down the backside. And second turn, by the time we turned for home, I had 3 horses in front of me. And I eased my filly out, sat her down, and man, she responded. And I'm sure the excitement inside of me was a lot of why she ran as good as she did, because when I walked into the paddock that day, every coach that I ever grew up with, every person I'd ever went to school with,
had
every
their
person I went
eyes
to
on
church
you.
with, were all standing. The whole paddock was full of Otto fans, and so I was excited. And she won the race.
She won your first race,
my very first race I ever rode, and I thought, man, this is going to be an easy game.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
I can't imagine what they did to you in the jocks room.
Yeah, it was ugly. We'll just say I came out a different color.
Oh my Lord! So that you broke your maiden, and they helped celebrate it.
Actually, I didn't get it as bad as I saw some jocks, because nobody was expecting it. It was opening day of the meet, first race of the meet.
Ready.
They weren't ready for this guy. And I kind of caught them off guard. I got some eggs smashed on my head, some baby powder, and then they painted me with some shoe polish.
Did you know that was going to happen?
No, I didn't. I really didn't know what
you didn't
happened.
Know. You didn't know about the initial initiation
not
part
know
of it
about the
either.
initiation
Oh my
part.
Lord. It takes a lot to be able to learn that skill. I mean,
Yeah, it does.
riding racehorses is tough.
It is.
You've got to be fit, you've got to be ready, and
You got to be sharp.
you got to be sharp, you got to think. There's so much to it. When you first started, what was it like breaking out of the gates?
100% adrenaline. I mean, to this day, I mean, I'm an adrenaline.
There's nothing
I'm an
like leaving the
adrenaline
gates.
junkie. I mean, I worked as an EMT at one time, and driving an ambulance 60, 70 miles an hour through town didn't even compare with, when that gates pop, it's 100% adrenaline.
Well, we're going to come back with Otto, and we're going to talk about going into the movies. Since he was a jockey, he got chosen to be able to ride. So we'll be right back.
Thank you to our presenting sponsor, Palm Chevrolet, and our broadcast and television sponsor, Larson Hay, and also to our supporting sponsors, Equisafe, Nirvana Medical Spa, Showcase Properties of Central Florida, the Equine Performance and Innovative Center, and Summit Joint Performance.
This show is sponsored in part by Hilton Garden Inn. Downtown Louisville, only 5 miles from Churchill Downs. Enjoy the 2 most exciting minutes in sports, plus a hearty breakfast and a mimosa, and let Hilton Garden Inn do the rest.
Hi, this is Hall of Fame jockey Mike Smith. You're listening to the Horse Talk Show.
Oh, we're back on the Horse Talk Show. I was reading something Louisa just sent me. She says, I can't send this to Gigi, so I have to send you a picture when I get a chance. We're back with Otto Thorwarth. This is his book, No Ordinary Champion. So we're going to find out about this book, and we're also going to find out about the movie. And if you see this book on here, you see he's on the horse in the movie Secretariat. So now that we know about your first race and you became a jockey, how did all this progress?
All right, so I rode for about 12 years, and I had what I call my burnout. I was fighting my weight, moving around. I started
because you were getting older. When you started fighting your weight, how old were you?
Probably about 30.
Yeah.
From 20 to 30, I battled with a pound or so, just your average thing. And then at 30, my metabolism started slowing down.
So what was your weight at 20?
At 20, I weighed like 106.
And then when you were starting, because people have to get this, he's 106 pounds.
Yeah.
Now, when you start battling weight, what poundage were you?
About 114.
So 114 pounds, you're battling weight. Okay, you got to get this in perspective.
Yeah. And so
it is really hard.
It is. It's
hard.
And I'm short. Compared to some jocks, there's jocks that are 5'4", 5'5".
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm 5 foot even, but even at 5 foot tall, it's just hard to maintain that weight. And it just really wore me down. And so I didn't think it out real well. I just said, I'm done with this. And I just walked away.
Yeah.
One day, got off my last horse, and at the end of a meet, and said, see y'all later.
At 114 pounds.
At 114. And so at that time, I had a really good career. I'd won 900 something races, 4 riding titles, 2 of them in Kentucky. I'd been successful, but I didn't have enough money to just retire. So
you've probably seen a lot of the jockeys and what they go through, and they're taking Lasix and they're doing everything they can, and in the sweat box. And
I bet I've lost, 500,000 pounds in the sweat box over the years.
And they can barely. I don't even know how they ride.
Yeah, you're completely drained. You can't drink anything to replenish it because you put the weight back on. Then you're going out, powering these 1,200-pound beast around the track going 40 miles.
And you have to be pure muscle because it takes every muscle in your body to do that. So that gives it a little bit of perspective when you're talking about burnout. I mean, it does.
And so I get burned out. I go home and I'm done with racing. And it was at that point in my life I really got my walk with the Lord on the right path. I'd say I grew up in church. but the church didn't grow up in me. And so it was during that time when I was kind of doing some soul searching, what am I going to do now? What's next for Otto? And at that point, I kind of had my real, I say, people say I recommitted or rededicated my life to Christ. I never was dedicated in the first place. And God, put somebody in my life that brought that to my attention. And so when I got that straight and kind of got my relationship with the Lord where it needed to be, I'm going through my Bible one day and I read Jeremiah 29:11 that talks about how God has a plan for our life. And as I read that, I thought, I've lived 35 years and I've never sought God to ask him what his plan was for my life. And so I just
it's like
got
let
on my
go,
knees.
let God.
Yeah, I was working as an EMT. I'd got licensed. I'm working on an ambulance, and I was in my room, and I just hit my knees and said, Lord, what's your plan for me? And just as clear as we're talking right now, he says, go back to the racetrack. And I thought,
really?
What else you got?
Really?
That's really not where I want to go. And I fought it for 6 months. And then finally, after 6 months, I knew it was where I was supposed to. I got some counsel from Pat Day, who was a dear friend of mine, very strong believer. And I went back to the track. And Pat's words to me, he said, Otto, if the Lord is leading you back to the track, then there's a reason. And he said, as well as I do, how few people there are on the backside who are willing to share the gospel. He said, God's got a reason. Just trust him. And so I go back to the track. I'm riding winners, win another riding title, win my 1,000th race. Things are going good, but I'm still just like, why you got me here? Well, about, I don't know, maybe 2 months after I went back to riding, we'd moved up to Indiana. I lived just out across the state line from Kentucky. And we got in this church, and I get this prophecy spoken over me by my pastor. He says, the Lord says you're going to ride a champion. And I thought, now this makes sense.
Kentucky Derby, there you go.
And then Bob, the pastor, love him to death, 30-year Assembly of God pastor, never set foot in a racetrack, knows nothing about races. One day I come into church about 2 weeks after the prophecy, and he says, Otto, he said, I had this vision this week. He says, you're sitting on this horse, and you have this huge blanket of roses draped across your lap, and all these people standing around you. He says, does that make any sense to you? And I said, Bob, that's the Kentucky Derby. And he says, well, there you go. You're going to win the Derby. And I said, you don't just go down to Churchill on the first Saturday in May and sign up for a mount. This is a big process. And realistically, in my mind, I thought.
And he doesn't know that.
He has no clue. He has no clue. And so I'm thinking, I'm going to be riding for another 10, 15 years trying to find this horse, and I don't even want to be a jockey at this point. But about 2.5 years later, I get handed the script for Disney's Secretariat by a gentleman at the track, and they're holding open auditions in every state that has parimutuel
and he
racing.
Just came up and handed it.
He's like, well, I'd done a lot of interviews with him and stuff on the camera, and he's like, man, you're comfortable in front of the camera. You should
try
check into this,
And
I was just kind of, I'm on a mission from God to ride a champion. I really don't have
time to
try my hand
this.
at acting. I've never acted. I thought in high school, I thought thespians were for people who couldn't play sports, And so my wife talks me into going to the audition. And she's like, oh, what about the girl? We got 2 girls at the time. And she's like, the girls could say their dad was in a Disney movie. And I'm just like, oh, whatever, And so I went and auditioned and went, just read off the script. Didn't have time. I got it the day before the audition. Didn't have time to study it. And so I go in, take the script.
Like I did news today.
Read. Yeah, kind of like that. And the casting director just went nuts. She was just like, oh my gosh, that's so good, And so I get a call back 2 weeks later, and still not really interested in doing it, but I've already started the process. And on my way to the callback, one of my best friends from Arkansas calls me, and he's like, hey, what are you doing? I said, you wouldn't believe me if I told you. I said, I'm on my way to audition for a Disney movie. And he's like, when'd you take up acting? I said, just in my spare time when I'm riding races. And he says, what's the role? And I told him, it was Secretariat. And I said, do you know who Secretariat is? Because he wasn't a race fan either. And he said, well, yeah, he's like the greatest horse ever. And I said, yeah, so that's what it's about. And he says, wait a minute. He says, didn't you get a prophecy a couple of years ago about riding a champion? And all of a sudden the light went off. I was like, oh my gosh, this is my champion. And you know, I thought, how dumb can you be and still breathe? You know, I mean, God just laid it in my lap, but I was too busy looking at the natural realm and
of what you knew,
of what I knew,
what you knew,
what I knew of champions. And so I went back for that audition and one other with Randall Wallace, the director. And a couple of weeks later, they called me and congratulated me on getting the part.
And then you said?
I said, yes.
And this is my champion.
This is my champion. Let's do it.
So let's go ahead. So we're down to the last minute of this segment, and we're going to be coming back again to go on with Otto and what he's about the movie, some of the things about the movie, and the rest of his life. So we'll be right back.
Thank you to our presenting sponsor, Palm Chevrolet, and our broadcast and television sponsor, Larson Hay. And also to our supporting sponsors, Equisafe, Nirvana Medical Spa, Showcase Properties of Central Florida, the Equine Performance and Innovative Center, and Summit Joint Performance.
Welcome back to the Horse Talk Show.
You never heard of a talking horse? Well, listen to this.
With your host, Louisa Barton.
What does it feel like to be in love with a horse?
Presented by Palm Chevrolet, your hometown Chevy experience.
Back in the saddle again.
Now, here's your pretty Louisa Barton.
You're fab. You're switched on. You're a bit of all right. Yes.
But Lisa's going to call.
Yeah, baby.
I think. The little girl. Welcome back to the Horse Talk Show. I'm here with Otto Thorwarth and his book, No Ordinary Champion. He's been a lifelong jockey of 20 years and then got to get a part in the Secretariat movie, being the jockey, riding Secretariat, one of the greatest horses ever to live. So now that you got that part, tell me some things about the movie, and then go on and tell me what you're doing now.
As I was talking to Louisa the other day, we were sharing some of the stories, you know, during the making. She was like, what's it like making? And she actually told me that she loved the scene where Secretariat comes out of the fog. It's his last work before the Belmont Stakes. And I just started giggling. She's like, what's so funny? I said, let me tell you a story about that. So they come to me the day before. We have 5 horses that play Secretariat, all right?
5 horses?
5 different horses. And they asked me, they said, here's what we're going to do. We're going to have this thick, you know, wall of fog, and you're going to come riding out of it. Which horse do you think would be best? And by this time, we'd been filming for probably 2.5 months. And
so you might have known
I was
them
familiar with the horses. I knew which ones were skittish, and there's one was called Long Shot Max, and he was bomb-proof. I think you could have shot a gun off this horse. And so I said, Max is my horse, you know, bring Max out. And so the next morning we get there at daylight, and they got these tubes running down both sides of the rail, inside and outside rail, and they crank them up, and it creates a fog so thick I wouldn't be able to see you.
No.
I mean, it was thick. And I was like, okay, now this may be
so
a problem.
This is the Hollywood part of it.
Yeah, this is the Hollywood part of it.
Something you would never be doing.
And so they were like, we want you to ride through the fog, and when the camera's going to be on the other side of the fog, about 100 yards down the track, you know, and we're going to film you coming out of this fog. I said, well, the problem is and this fog was like 1/8 of a mile long. It wasn't just, you know, a little
So you
wall.
couldn't see.
I said, I'm not going to be able to see, and I'm going 38 miles an hour on this horse. I could run over the inside rail, you know, once we get in there, because you won't have any, you know, perception of where you're at. So I said, can you kill the fog? And they said, yeah. So they killed the fog, and the camera's sitting down there in the track, and I got to where the fog started and where it ended, and I just took my heel and I drug it in the ground, in the track, and made a line from start to finish. And so when I went in the fog, I could look down over the horse's shoulder and see that line and follow it, and then I would come out in front of the camera where they wanted me. So once we did that, I jogged the horse through, I galloped him through. He didn't seem like he minded, so we backed him up around the turn. They got the camera ready, and they got walkie-talkies, and I hear, okay, action. And they give me the signal, and I get him up to full speed, you know, we're going around the turn, we're fixing to come into this wall of fog. We get literally like 5 feet from the fog, and this horse just
Stops.
plants him. And I went right over the top into the fog by myself. I hit, fortunately I didn't break nothing, I hit and roll, and I get up and I can hear people talking, and I'm disoriented. I don't know where anybody is. I can't see anything. And so where the most voices are, I just start walking to them. Well, I come out the opposite side that I went in, and the camera, everybody's down, the camera waiting for this horse to come out, and I walk out without the horse, and they're all like, "Where's the horse?" I was like, "I don't know."
It's too bad you didn't make it to the other side, because it looked like you would have shot through a cannon.
yeah, if I could come out. But
so how did you get it done?
Well, the next take, we got the horse, somebody got the horse and put me back on it. And the next time, because it was an eighth of a mile long, I just kind of galloped the horse into the fog, and then as soon as I got him in, then I asked him, and he picked it up, and we came out. And it's one of the coolest shots in the movie, you know. And we did it probably 10 or 15 times.
What was the horse's name that did that?
Long Shot Max. His name.
And was it a thoroughbred?
Yeah, he was a thoroughbred. We had 4 thoroughbreds and 1 quarter horse.
And they looked all the same.
They all looked a lot like Secretariat. Now they use shoe polish to paint up and get the markings and everything just right. But yeah. So
then it's kind of almost history in the fact that you did this movie, and it was probably pretty an amazing experience.
Oh, it was. I mean, I'm working with Diane Lane, John Malkovich, James Cromwell. I mean, some of the biggest names. Randall Wallace. He was the most unbelievable man. The director. This is the guy that wrote Braveheart, When We Were Soldiers. You know, I mean.
Now, you did different scenes, so they told you what they wanted you to do and how they wanted to film it, what they wanted it to look like.
Right. Yeah, they would explain, you know, like the horse racing scenes. They actually had a cork board, and they would say, okay, you know, here at this point we want this horse on front, this one 2 lengths behind. I mean, we're trying to get 12 horses to cooperate and get in line and then sit them down, and it was hard to do.
So there was other riders.
Yeah, we had lots of jockeys, you know, ex-jockeys that were
trying to figure that out, basically. And hopefully not have a horse that's going to drag you down the racetrack.
In the Derby, at the finish of the Derby, the horse that was playing sham, you know, I passed him about the 16th pole, and this horse that they had the first time we went to film it was like very eager and very competitive, and every time I'd go to pass him, he'd run off with the other jock, and he won the Derby like 3 times. And after the 3rd time, the horse trainer's like, "Do you realize the name of this movie is Secretariat, Sham?"
There you go. Oh my God. Yeah, because I know how hard that would be to hold one, and sometimes you just can't.
It's tough.
You can't hold them.
It was interesting. It's not as easy to recreate a race as you think it is, and we did them in all in eighth mile sequences. So you know, and then they just put it all together.
Yeah, 8th mile, 220 yards in quarter horse terms.
Yeah, exactly.
That's not very long.
No, it's not.
So, and they can regroup after doing just an eighth of a mile pretty quickly. They're not as tired.
No.
So basically, even doing that many times with the horses, those horses can handle that pretty good.
Yeah, but see, they had rules. PETA was there on set all the time, and you could only do 2 takes a day per horse. And so that's why we had 5 sets of horses, so we could do 10
takes, because you had to change. Yeah, so you had to change them and groom them and get yourself ready, warm it up, figure out how the horse is going to act. And so, which one actually won the Derby? Not the
Trolley
Derby, the
Boy.
Belmont.
Trolley Boy was the horse that.
And that was a thoroughbred?
Yeah. Yeah, he was the one that looked the most like Secretariat. He had actually won a Secretariat look-alike contest in Versailles, Kentucky. So.
Oh, well, that's cool. Yeah. So he's the one that actually did the take.
Yeah, he was what they called the hero horse. He was the one, all the close-up shots, you know, shots like this. You know, that you know, that was.
That's him.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So now, tell us about your story, a little bit more of your life and this book.
Okay. I wrote the book, you know, it tells everything. It tells everything from my childhood all the way up to present day, which now I'm working as a chaplain at Indiana Grand Race Course in Indiana. So I've got the best of both worlds. I've got my passion for the Lord, and my knowledge of the racetrack, and I'm able to combine it. And
Now, how long have you been a pastor?
I've been ordained for 6 years now.
6 years. So you've been pretty much every week on the track, helping people. You do the morning.
We do a morning devotion. We do Thursday night lesson on Facebook Live on Otto Thorwarth Ministries. I baptize people, I do funerals, I do weddings. I mean, pretty much everything a pastor would do, but it's on a racetrack.
And how do you feel about that? What's that like?
It's very rewarding. I mean, to be able to change somebody's eternity there's nothing like it. To take someone who doesn't know the Lord and introduce them to Him and see their life changed is just. It's awesome.
And like in any world, you always find those lost souls. I've seen it on the racetrack myself. and without somebody having something that they can relate to, because you can relate to the people on the racetrack.
Right.
So, Louisa, you're on the phone.
Yes.
And so she's been listening to this, and I wanted to see if you had any thoughts or anything to ask Otto.
Well, actually, I know everything about Otto, plus I've read his amazing book, plus he's a personal friend of mine, and I just love him and his family. I think they're just wonderful, wonderful people, and I'm very blessed to have him in the studio. But I wanted to do a very quick mention for a dear friend of mine, Jay Suarez. She won the Junior Pheno Championship on Donna Blanca this weekend, and I just wanted to say congratulations to Jay on air and her family and the farm, and I want to just tell her that I love her and she's amazing, and I thought she might like to hear that from you and Otto as well.
Oh, that's
she
congratulations.
is an amazing rider.
Absolutely. It's a beautiful horse.
Is that the horse you rode?
Yes.
There you go.
That's the one I came forth on in my first show, the first time that I rode a Pasfino, and then the third time I showed a Pasfino against some really, really top people, and I was so excited, and I rode Donna Blanca, and that's the horse that she just won.
So that just happened. So that had to be the splash. So. Well, we're changing a lot of lives here on the Horse Talk Show, and I'm so thrilled to be able to meet Otto face to face and be able to interview him, and with Louisa and Otto, you've changed your own life, and you're continue to take your career and changing other people's lives, and even through the movie, and a person for people to look up to that had a career and now a movie. Amazing movie that's going to be around forever. Way after we all leave this earth. So, congratulations on a job well done.
Thank you.
Well done, well done.
And make sure you get his book.
He already gave it to me. See, this is mine. Did you sign it?
I did not. But
and I want it's a Jeremiah. What's that? The Jeremiah
2911.
2911. I want that in there. Well, thank you for visiting the Horse Talk Show, and we appreciate everybody watching, and we'll be back again next week. Okay.